Hello, friends. I am going to do a foam roller class today. And the reason is because my shoulder is feeling a little crunchy this morning. I went to pole class a couple days ago, and I think my body is just adjusting to that. My assistant Squeaky Deaky is over there in the corner, wondering why the chair isn't there anymore, which you can see right here. So I'm going to start. I already did a lymph flush, so I feel like it's really good to do that lymph flush early in the morning. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back, scroll back in videos that say lymph flush. I have one called Lymph Magic Moves, which is a quick, uh, short reel that gives you a whole lymph flush in just a few minutes. So I'm going to start laying on this foam roller. And I'm just going to let my body dial down into being on the floor in a relationship with gravity where I'm not standing anymore. I have already taken a walk. I have done a little bit of breath work practice, and I still feel that this crunchiness is in my shoulder. So I'm going to start with just laying on this. It's centered up the middle of my back. And I'm going to just roll a little bit slowly from side to side. And I'm not trying to stabilize my spine at all. I'm letting my head and tail have some freedom. So I'm getting a little bit of a C curve in my body from one side to the other. So if we're having these kind of tight places where there might be a buildup of lactic acid or something is a little adhesy, a little sticky, our body and our fascia really like slow movement, right? So slow movement to taking our time to get in there. So I'm not forcing myself in. I am not getting into the spot and then just working through it. I'm slowly moving across it. And then I'm also going to the other side. So I'm working to balance the tissue out on both sides, not favoring the injured side a whole lot more, or I don't really want to say injured, the sore side. So I'm just rolling back and forth. I'm letting my head really relax. So I'm not holding tension in my neck. My jaw is relaxed. And my head is turning from side to side, right? And just this turning of side to side and taking in my environment is giving my nervous system the information that I can dial down and not be in any kind of hypervigilant state, right? I am safe. I'm looking around. I'm seeing the movement of my head from side to side, and I know I am safe. So that's giving my body the information that it is safe to drop down into a more parasympathetic rest and digest, soothe, and settle state. Ah. And in the parasympathetic is where we heal. That is where our body mends. So we want to drop down into that as much as possible to give our body the chance to renegotiate that inner space in a gentle way. So we're processing, metabolizing, healing inside, right? Rest, digest, soothe, settle. So I'm scooching down so that I have my whole body can rest, or the whole length of my back can rest on the roller. And I'm gonna just do kind of like a lizard climb, body halving. So there's a little squish in one side and then the other, letting my elbows draw down on one side and then on the other, and drawing up. So if I were a lizard, this is kind of how I would walk. Maybe not on my back, but if I was flipped over, lizard walking. And then letting my head turn with that. Actually, this feels very delicious. So a more somatic approach, meaning really feeling into the experience of what's going on and not forcing, not pushing, not imposing from the outside, not objectifying your body, but being present with your body, being present with sensation is going to be a better way, or a better way for me to come into healing. So you can't force healing. You can, nurture it, nourish, and open for it. But if you try and force, you're going to have the opposite effect of like, no, I am not ready to let go. I'm taking my arms up and still just working with this side. I'm not just diving into the area that I feel the tightness or the sort of painfulness, lactic acid adhesive, which is on this shoulder, around my shoulder blade. So like rhomboids, levator scapulae, all of those things in there are a little bit, let's say, inflamed. Oh, now I'm going to take it a little further. Now, if you've never spent any time on a foam roller, you may want to go really slow with this. I have spent a lot of time on a foam roller, and it's very easy for me to balance my body. But the more I relax, the more easy it would be just to roll off the foam roller, right? So I'm working with my legs very wide to help stabilize this movement. So, and I can also open my arms out to give myself a little more support. Ah, rolling, 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 rawhide. And then just, I'm going to reach across. So this is the top side. I'm letting this arm, rotator cuff, scapula, rhomboid open up, and I'm going to kind of spiral that arm so that the tissue gets this really three-dimensional movement. Taking it over to the other side, same thing. So I'm not just thinking that I'm working the tissue under the between me and the foam roller. It's also this opportunity for the top part. So you can see I'm retracting and then extending in my scapula, and I'm spiraling my arm so that that tissue gets to wring itself out a little bit. Coming back in, readjusting. Just breathe. Take in some breath. I'm just going to do a little teeny rock, pushing with my feet. So, inviting my spine to soften and melt. And I can think of my body just like weighted, like if I had a bag of sand with water in it that could kind of spread over the foam roller. It's not a very good image, but somehow we're little rocks and water that just as I'm there, it can settle down more and more and more. And we're kind of like that. I mean, there's nothing in us that's that much like a rock. Maybe our teeth, our bones have, spaciousness within them. There's the marrow, but even the way that uh, the densest fibrous material of the bone forms, there's still little spaciousness within that. These little kind of icosahedral stackings, biomorphic stacks. Well, maybe they're not that morphic, but they are a little bit. I'm going to lift my pelvis, bringing a little bit more weight up to my shoulders, and then just rolling across, going really slow. So, again, if you haven't spent much time on a foam roller and you might roll off of it, just be gentle, be careful, make sure you have the support you need. I'm going to get more into that side. So, I'm taking my head off to the side, I'm pressing up a little higher, and I'm going to start to move that arm. Moving in different ways so I have different relationships to the floor, to gravity. I'm actually going to do these arm circles. Getting in, listening in for what I want to have kind of an equal balance of of sensing sort of the painfulness of it, but also what feels good in it. So that ultimately the information I'm giving my body as I do this isn't like, it's yummy, right? There should be some deliciousness in the movement. If it's super painful, you're gonna just be putting more tension in your body. So I don't recommend just going with that push. It's a very Western way. I found the spot, now I'm gonna get in there. But that's not going to help release the spot. Usually the tension pattern is a much bigger holding, or the lack of flow in the area is not just because of the area, it's because of everything around it. So we want to work in a way that's really whole body, sort of global thinking, not just spot area. And also, again, working with it so it feels, I'm going to do the other side just to even myself out so that it feels kind of this combination of deliciousness and maybe feeling the pain a little bit, but getting in there in a way that isn't adding tension, getting in there in a way that feels expansive, right? So that's a great way of looking at anything. Does this make me want to contract or does it make me want to expand? And it's not to say that we want to be in a state of expansion all the time, right? We can't sustain that. We can't just grow, grow, grow. We have to have the fallow periods. We have to have the times where we come in, where we withdraw into ourselves, right? Where we digest and process whatever's going on in that growth. So we want to go slow. We want to go delicious. And friendly, user friendly. Like I'm not coming into my body to fix the thing. I'm coming in to be present with it and to feel, is there a way I can be more supportive of this? Is there a way I can help hydrate, nourish, and heal in a gentle way? Oh, my thing has stopped. My camera, or not my camera, my screen has gone off, but I think it's still recording. So I'm going to come down. I've got this weighted ball. This ball is 8 pounds. You could use a rock. You could use a set of weights. And I'm just going to move. So now I have that weight, which is going to give me more information as I come in. And also, so adding this weight, I'm going to work my muscles a little bit more, but I'm going to bring in more blood flow through that little bit of work with it. And I'm just doing this up and down motion, getting my arms, my muscles engaged a little bit with my back. Feeling what that does. And then I'm gonna make small circles. Like it would be easy. A lighter weight would probably be better. But this actually feels fine. I can't go very big on the circles or it'll destabilize me and I'll fall off of my roller. And I'm trying to go really gently. So it's slow and gentle. There's still muscle activity happening, but there's also this really nice massage going on underneath. Just going to go back and forth here. And then I'm going to spiral my arms. The weight is above me, spiraling and twisting my arms around the ball. If you had like a weight, you could hold like a small weight, like a 2 pound weight or a 4 pound weight, holding the two ends. Be careful not to drop it on yourself, obviously. And this actually feels really good because I'm raising up that scapula and then I'm drawing it back down, right? So the spiral is having me move my scapula in a very different way, in a sort of different size, shape, and way. My head is free to move. And I'm trying to keep my neck, jaw, and throat as relaxed as possible. So I'm not really bracing very much. My feet are helping support me. Again, just coming in to breathe. Let your body melt over the roller. As I'm here, I'm noticing, oh, maybe I need to get a little bit into my hips as well. So I'm just going to do a little bit of hip either side. I did teach ballet on Monday. And whenever my lower back gets tight, it's usually my rotators and my glutes just pulling in a little bit. So anytime rolling across that is going to help. Other thing I can do here is get onto one butt cheek and then gently move up and down. So I'm getting some shear in there. I'm not just rolling across, but getting shear so that the demand on the tissue is very different. And I'm moving across it as I go up and down. So up and down. And it's great to get your hips and shoulders same time, right? These are these big proximal joints. They're both ball and socket joints. I'm going to go across the other side. And they are the sort of mediators to our limbs, right? From our center to our edge. the pelvis through that hip joint out into your leg to your foot. And then in your arm, it's your rotator cuff out through your arm to your hand. So nice to work both the upper and lower, right? The hip and the shoulder and the hip. And then I'm going to get onto one side. I've crossed over, so I'm already in the hip stretch. I'm on an angle, and I'm moving my body. Same thing on the other side. You may be doing different things on your foam roller. Listen in. Don't go for maximum pain. Go for what feels sustainable and also like, yeah, this is kind of delicious. When you move your body a lot and you do a lot of physical things, like you can feel, I can wake up and feel like, oh, I can barely move. It's like the ascent of man getting out of bed. But that can change really quickly in the day. Like within, half an hour of getting out of bed, I can feel like a totally different body. So try not to let your nervous system attach onto what it thinks you feel like. Stay fresh by really engaging in noticing what's going on right now. What do I actually feel like? What feels good? What feels maybe not as good? Okay, here I am back in the hips in a different position. Got a little arch in my back. If you spend a lot of time seated, you want to have some times where your pelvis and your hips can open up. This front body gets to open up a little. It's not to say that you need to do exactly this, but getting some bridges, some times when you're in an extension, front of the body gets to open up. How this feels really good to roll across. Now I'm getting higher up, right along that ridge, just under where the top of my iliac crest is, so the top of the bone of my pelvis. I'm going just underneath that, which will get my glute minimus, and into my rotators a little bit. Delicious. And I could take this all the way around to the front of that a little and get a little bit more. And I'm trying to be as relaxed in my body as possible. So I'm pouring myself around on my foam roller. I'm, again, trying not to brace, right? Some parts of me need to stabilize, but I don't need to stabilize with extra muscle tension. I feel like in the West, we kind of think about working and movement and exercise as maximal muscle tension. But what if we worked in the most efficient manner possibly? It would be the least amount of tension to do whatever we're doing. Okay, I'm taking it up to my shoulders and I'm going to support my head and I'm just going to roll up and down through here. I tend to not have tightness in my mid back, so I'm really sticking with the upper and lower here. If you have a lot of tightness in your mid back, you might want to spend some time here with some rolling across that. Having said I don't have tightness, it's maybe just that I don't sense it. And this is harder to work in here. And if I'm in there, I want to actually give myself, a little rounded supporting that. And I'm now getting under my shoulder blade again, right here, right under the base of my scapula. And that can be a great place to spend some time. I'm not going to do it today though. Often when we're feeling the tightness somewhere, it could be because there's an imbalance somewhere else, right? There could be something that's gotten a little tighter, so it's demanding more of that area where you're actually feeling the pain. So we want to kind of work through the whole thing a little bit and not just think it's all right here. You may feel it all right there, but probably there's a lot of other areas that just aren't giving you the sensory information that the more painful area is. We want to think of the whole body, which is one reason why I really like before you get down here and do this, do a lymph flush so that once you open up, the fluids are moving, they have somewhere to go. They can move through your body back into your blood flow and out through your kidneys or wherever they're going. Detoxing in your bodies. Now I'm going to have my arms up. I'm getting again under this particular little armpit lat area, which can be very special. but I don't want to move it. I don't want to go into it and force, right? I want to stay. Can I still feel kind of open with this? If I'm getting to a point where it's adding tension to my body, I don't think I'm doing myself any huge favors. Now I'm just going to arch over the foam roller and come up into a bit of a curl, opening rib cage, lungs, and heart. We can also think of like the inside of my body to the outside of my body. So coming toward that shoulder issue or that kind of rhomboid issue from the front of my body, moving toward the back of my body. So even rib cage, lungs, and heart, they're all really close to each other. And I'm not forcing my heart to open. I have a friend who was a yoga teacher who felt like he needed to open his heart and he would just be like this for hours, right? And it's like, is that really going to open your heart? I mean, maybe, but it might also be like if I was doing this for a long time, I feel like my tissue would be like, whoa, you're forcing me into something. I need to contract in the opposite direction, right? Body likes gentle. Heart likes gentle. Heart likes kindness, not forcing. And if we are, working towards these maximal flexibilities, what's happening on the inside? Are we able to expand into that? And is that actually healthy, right? Maybe, maybe not. Maximal flexibility, hypermobility is often difficult to deal with. You have to work a lot more on stability. People who are incredibly stable maybe work on some mobility, but it doesn't have to be huge, right? What we want to be able to do is move. Mobility, most important thing. Can I get around? All right, I'm going to go into the side with a reach. If I kind of move my arm around in that reach, it gets into this whole upper quadrant. This is my side that feels good. So I'm starting with that. And then I'm going to take it to the other side. Finding flow in the movement, right? So that I'm not forcing and stopping and blocking, but I'm creating fluidity and mobility. Here I am on the other side, which is now feeling much better. I still feel it. My nervous system is still like, hey, I know what you did. But it's not in that same kind of under supported feeling, undernourished feeling. It is feeling like, oh yeah, this isn't so bad. I'm going to get back into my back, one big roll. From my tail supporting up through my head. When I said one, I did not mean one. So now, like to do this, like I am engaging my abs, like I'm engaging my core because I don't want to go all the way down. I want to let it go through. And then I'm going to change it just a little bit of hamstrings. We're really, I think, just going back body today. And I'm going to roll through them. And then I'm also going to like roll across. And as I'm rolling across, I'm working my way down and then back up. Right? I can keep the roller where it is and just move my body and get that shear. So I want the fascia and the tissue and the muscle fibers to have some capacity to move around so that the layers can slide and glide where they need to slide and glide, or they can just, so sliding and gliding. It's not like it's all going to shift like a huge plane. They still may be quite connected. Here's the squeaky deaky. Hey. And you could spend a long time here, but again, don't force into it. And I would say that before you roll, do some of these, which we did before. Before you try and get deep in there, you want those muscles to be warmer. And I see so many people just going in without having the initial flow happening, right? Do some movement before so that there's a natural flow so that the lymphatics are free. Getting into my calves, I'm going to pick myself up, turning out and in. Hello, calves. Probably going back and forth with that. And I have clients that ask, like, oh, I'm doing this foam roller, but it doesn't fix it. And it's like, no, because you have a chronic thing going on in there. Like, we all are walking around in shoes on flat surfaces. That is not really supportive for the structure of our bodies. We need to give it time. Um, and so, like, a regular foam rolling is probably pretty good, or just getting down and relaxing, moving. It's hard to get into your calves. A great way is to also move your feet as you're in there, right? So I'm moving from the inside or moving the outside that gets down to the inside. And if I do it both at the same time, there's sort of more capacity for freedom in there. Oh, it's delicious. It can also be pretty painful. So I'm not going to just hang out in those painful areas and try and get it worked out. I'm going to move through and with them, coming back and forth. Right? We want to not be adding tension to our bodies. If you feel like you have to brace against the action, then relax, breathe, go slower. See if you can keep relaxing in. And I'm going kind of fast through this. It actually feels good to me to go fast. Just getting a little more movement, not really trying to make any huge change. And that is it. So I hope it worked. Otherwise, I just did the whole thing just for myself.